Hi weaving friends, today I'm going to show you what to do when you need to double your weft on your stick shuttle. This video is brought to you by the Diamond Stripe Towels Weave Along, back by popular demand. Yes, I ran this weave along last year in January and I've had so many requests to open it up again next year that I'm going to do that. So January 2022, the weave along will be open again. And I will be providing more details, but the best thing for you to do, friends, if you're interested in joining along, is to get on my mailing list. That's the best way for me to let you know all the ins and outs that you'll need to know before you join in the weave along. I'm going to leave the link to my mailing list down below. Joining up is really easy and you also get a free pattern as a gift from me. Okay, well this is a pretty impromptu video, so you'll have to accept my apologies for not tidying up first. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. Anyway, today I was just going to be using this method myself, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to jump on and just film this because so many people ask me about this. It's easier for me to just film it, and then that way you can all watch and see what my process is when I want to double my weft on the rigid head or loom. So if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about when I say doubling the weft, this is the weft that I want to use. It's a fairly fine yarn, an 8/2 cotton, and I'm using an 8/4 cotton warp. So instead of using a single 8/2 cotton for the weft, on my stick shuttle, if I was doing a single weft, then I would just simply start winding this on. But I actually want a double thickness of this thread to be a bit more closely matched with my 8/4 cotton. It's really simple, it just takes a little bit of extra time in order to be able to do this, but let me show you how I do it. The first thing I do is to pop the yarn that I want to use for my weft on my cone holder and thread that up, and I just have my cone holder on the floor. Now I'm going to leave a link down below in case you're interested in the design of this warp cone holder that my husband made for me, and maybe you want to make one for yourself. But if you don't have one, the main thing is to just secure the yarn so that it's not going to be rolling all over the floor and being an absolute pain for you to deal with. On the table above my cone holder, I have my ball winder all set up right near the edge and ready to go. Now the ball winder is how I'm going to actually make an extra ball so that I end up with both my original cone of yarn plus an extra little ball to feed off. Now I know that not everyone has a ball winder. These are extremely handy for a variety of things. I originally got mine because I was dyeing a lot of yarn and I needed to get it from skein format into a yarn cake, and it's been absolutely invaluable. I've just used this constantly, but it's also really handy for things like this, winding off extra amounts when you need more than one thread at a time. If you don't have a ball winder, another suggestion is, this is just an old plastic cone that had some weaving yarn on it. Even something like a toilet roll will work fine, and you can just grab your yarn and start winding it by hand that way. That is going to take much longer than using the ball winder, but as I said, not everyone has a ball winder and everyone starts somewhere, so that's an option as well. A toilet roll is even a little bit better than this because it's wider, so you won't be winding as many times. I kind of like this one because it's got this grippy stuff on it, which makes it really easy to wind fast. Anyway, however you do it, another way you could even do it is by winding around your fingers, and then eventually when you've got enough, taking it off and making a bit more of a ball that way. That works okay. You may be more likely to get some tangles that way, but try a few different methods and see what suits you. And if none of those methods work for you, think about investing in a ball winder. So I'm going to thread my thread in there underneath and then pop it in the catcher. And then I'm just going to start winding, and it feeds off the cone that I've got down on the floor and gradually makes this yarn cake. Now I'm going to speed this up because it's a little bit boring to watch, but I'll meet up with you in a moment and I can show you what the finished cake looks like. Okay, so I've got a decent amount there. The amount that you do is of course going to depend on how much weft yarn you actually want to be using. But what I often do is I just wind off a smaller amount, and then if I need more afterwards, I come back and wind off another small amount. It's no big deal. So I'm going to cut the end, and then that end I can wrap around so that it's out of the way. And then I can just pull off, and I've got this little yarn cake all ready to go. And then I'll show you what we're going to do with that. Now I've got my original cone of yarn plus my new yarn cake, and I've put them both on the cone winder and threaded them up through the eye hooks. These are going to stay resting on the floor right near my feet. Okay, I've got my stick shuttle ready to wind, and I have got my 2 ends of cotton that I wanted to use, that I wanted to double. I start out by just making a slip knot, and from this point on, I treat it very much the same as if it's a single weft. Pop that slip knot of both threads on and tighten it up, and then we can start our figure 8 winding. And because I've got both of the threads at my feet, they just feed off beautifully up through the eye hooks on the cone stand. And I'm just constantly holding both of them under the same amount of tension so that it doesn't even feel like 2 pieces of yarn, it just feels like one. And then I can just keep winding until I have got my required amount, or as much as I want to put on for now anyway. If you want a more in-depth video for how to wind a stick shuttle with a figure 8 like I'm doing here, I have a more in-depth video of that, and I'll leave the link down below. When I come to the end, I'll have the end of my yarn cake, but my other cone yarn will still be continuing, so I'll just cut that to the same length. And then what we have is our stick shuttle is loaded, ready to start weaving, but instead of 1 thread, I have doubled threads. I hope this video was helpful to you, friends. Until next time, happy weaving.